The gentleman from California, Vice Chair Gomez, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, thank you so much for holding this important hearing. I want to thank all of you for being here. I've been working on this issue for since I got elected, and one of the things I've been concerned about is just outreach to minority communities, hard-to-count communities, especially like mine in California and downtown LA. Some of the the nonprofits that are doing some of the outreach through some of the state and federal grants, they're reaching out to communities, and I've asked them questions about their program. So they're doing a lot of phone calls right now, doing some advertisement, and then they mentioned to me that the Census Bureau advised them not to have like door knockers when enumerators are out. Is that correct?
Congressman, first of all, let me say this with your partners. You have the greatest number of partners than any member of Congress. You're at almost 2,000 partners.
Yeah.
And so I commend you greatly on that. Yeah. Those partners make a very important difference. Also, you have probably the most difficult, hard-to-count community with the homeless. Yeah. And when I was in LA and visiting your district and visiting your office, and in fact, both HUD as well as the city were trying to get some counts as to that population. And I went out and we looked carefully at the populations and some of the challenges for counting them that we're planning for. But reaching the hard to count in your district, we're totally committed to doing it in any way. With regard to the specific, this is my understanding, is that there has been some discussion because California has more resources and is doing a count of its own of a type, I guess with a corporation, a think tank that's been hired to help with a count. And I think that we have given advice that we don't want to mix the two together so that people are confused as to who's knocking on their door. Is it the think tank administered survey, or is it the census? Yeah. And that's, as far as I know, that's what the issue was and has been.
And that makes sense, right? You don't want two people so you have one group, say it's the unofficial nonprofit or community liaison knocking on doors saying, hey, have you filled out the census? And then that person automatically thinks that they filled, like they were counted, right? And then they don't respond. That's a real fear, correct? Confusion by having too many people at the wrong time. And I agree with that. But that leads me to some other things that are disturbing that's going on in California, right? There's a situation where we have some mailers, as somebody raised them before. Madam Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a Republican GOP census doc said 2020 census district census doc. And they're mailing this out into California, right? Do you believe that this will cause confusion?
Congressman, I got a copy of it before you came into the hearing today, and another a woman from California shared this with me, and we don't want any confusion whatsoever. So we pledged that we would look at this, and I explained that we have sources on our website that if people feel they're being deceived in a way, they can report it to us, and we will look into it, but also that we never request personal information, we never request funding, we never request Social Security numbers, credit cards, et cetera. So we need to get that positive message out.
That's not my question. Here's the thing. If you're so concerned and you advise these nonprofits, the state of California, these different groups, not to have door knockers.
We didn't advise them not to. We just advised our folks not to be confused with them.
And why? Because you might end up actually suppressing the count itself. So that's the point, right? You have a document that's going out that looks official, right? It could cause that same kind of confusion before the actual census forms get mailed out. And what I'm saying is that we need more communication with whatever entity is out there. You know, if it's the Republican Party, they need to be pointed out that this can inadvertently suppress the count. So I'm not saying that it will, but it is possible. If you're concerned about having other folks knocking on doors, this should be deeply concerning to the Census Bureau. Is the Census Bureau going to do any outreach to these campaigns, to the political parties, to not have forms that look like the census? I know freedom of speech, freedom of political communication becomes a very difficult, but is there any discussions of having those conversations with these entities?
Congressman, to my knowledge, we've not had those discussions with any political party or campaign. And as I had indicated earlier, our primary response is to make sure people get accurate information that this is not part of the Census Bureau's questionnaire or anything. I do understand, and I am also the recipient of mail that is often disguised with headings to get you to open it and to begin reading it. When I read this, I would hope that anyone would realize this is not the census. And so, but I understand that there are these operations that want to attract attention and get you to open the mail.
No, thank you. I'm not surprised by these mailings. I've seen it before, different types. Often they do, political campaigns do an envelope that says important tax information. There's a bunch of silliness in order to win. But this is a bigger deal than I think that you realize. There should be a deeper concern. I understand that they're going to make constitutional arguments, it's going to be limited, but sometimes good public shaming helps to correct behavior. Well, let's hope. Another question. In order to, I think I'm over time now, but one of the things that I am interested in is how are we going to, there are some technical issues, or people are concerned about the online filling out the form, the phone number. Is there any concern about overwhelming the system, or will the system be able to handle a massive flux of people trying to fill out the census questionnaire at the same time? I doubt it, because it's like, let's face it, people are not revving up to fill out the census. But what are your thoughts?
Congressman, we do think about that, and the system has been designed to accommodate far exceed what our predictions are. So that if we think we're going to be receiving the information from up to 200,000 at one time, we designed the system for 600,000 plus. And so far, they've tested very well. We recently made a decision with regard to our systems to make sure that we had the one that would present a better customer experience and could handle the volume a little better as our primary system for the internet self-response. And so we're mindful of that. And, in the event it was to happen, it could slow down the system. But we also remind people, we want them to get it in soon, but they have about 4 months. So it's not that everyone's going to get on the system in one day or even 1 week. And so we do study that, we plan for it, and I think all indications are we're ready for it. But could it happen? I mean, I used to present hypotheticals if it was football season and you got all the college teams playing football and ask at halftime for everybody in the stadium, you probably could overwhelm the system, but I'm not sure that's a realistic scenario.
So in political campaigns, we see like there's trends, right? You can tell people turn in their ballot early or they turn in their ballot late. Traditionally, it's been like this kind of this U shape. Now it's moving towards everybody towards the back. Is there like towards the end, like the closer to election date, people are holding onto the ballots waiting longer? Have you guys seen that, like how it works through the census? Is it a traditional, a lot of people answer right away and then slow down and then pick up?
From our 18 tests, when we began to look at what type of self-response we had a big thrust early in the process. And then we had a renewed thrust after we knocked on the door the first time and left a notice of visit that said, hi, I'm going to be your census person. I'm going to come back and visit. You weren't here. People then went and got online, and so we had another bump. But our bumps at the beginning and then a little bump, then it tapers off from that point
Okay.
on.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for indulging me. I yield back.
I want to thank Jimmy Gomez for bringing up this deceptive mailer. I think it's outrageous.